What does it take to get a fraud investigator job? In this video I will uncover some important aspects you want to keep in mind if you are trying to get a job as a fraud investigator. In my one-on-one discussion with my guest Zan Arif, who currently works as a fraud investigator, today we will review some day-to-day activities, clarify how this role fits within the broader financial crime structure, and many more interesting info for those of you that are considering or are applying for this type of role. So let's jump right into today's video. Hey everyone, I've received so many comments in the last few months about how to get into AML and financial crime prevention roles. So this is the first video part of a mini series where you can discover more in details how it actually is to work in some of the most common roles across the financial crime prevention industry. I'm starting by covering today the fraud investigator job, and in the video description you will find links to other videos related also to other roles. So here is my conversation with Zan. Hope it will help you to learn more about the fraud investigator role. Hi Zan, welcome to FinCrime Agent. It's great to see you. How are you today?
Hey Marco, I'm well, thank you. Thanks for having me. It's nice to be here.
It's a great pleasure. Thank you for offering to share your experience with the audience. So I wanted to start with a question for people that are actually doing the interviews. And I was wondering, during the interview stage, is there like a key topic that candidates perhaps should make sure that they are covering when they're speaking with the hiring manager?
Yes, of course. It depends on what type of fraud investigations you're going into. So in my experience, for me personally, it's I work in a bank. For a banking perspective, key topics would involve how well you understand, people's transactions, lifestyles. That's very important to understand what is normal, what's not normal. Being able to identify fraud, being able to dissociate strange activity from what you consider to be fraud. It's a sort of a grey area that slowly transitions into fraud. So that's very important. I think it's not a key topic, it's more key topics. So as an employer, I know, I wouldn't say as an employer because I can't go that far, but if I was to get somebody onto my team, I would want somebody who's very computer literate, somebody who can Google things very quickly to understand, to investigate lots of things, to compile information. So somebody that's good with handling lots of softwares and computer programs at the same time. So that sort of stuff is very, very important. Yeah. So these things all I think will be useful.
Do you think there is a specific qualification that may be preferred for this role, or a background that a candidate should have to apply for this type of roles?
The good thing about fraud is it's a booming field. Fraud investigations, compliance. It's a very right now it's very prevalent and it's only getting bigger. So the demand for staff is quite high. So actually entry-level jobs are still entry, which is good. So you can get into it from all sorts. I know my colleagues at work, they come from all sorts of backgrounds. But I suppose as you move higher up, and depending on what your intention is for where you want to be, I suppose having maybe academic backgrounds is better, maybe at more senior level, especially maybe accounting, management, business, this sort of stuff will be definitely useful. But for the first maybe 5-10 years of progression, I don't think background is that too important. Depending on some positions, you are customer facing, so you need to have a good ability to talk to people, to negotiate with them. I know people who have done charity work in their background. These people, sales, retail, they tend to do quite well in those fields too. But in terms of qualifications, until you go really quite senior, it doesn't matter too much.
And you mentioned before the ability to use multiple software. So what sort of softwares are they required to be using in this type of role?
So there's with every position you're in, there is the general sort of housekeeping tools and note keeping, the internal communication softwares and that sort of stuff, the reports that you write and the templates. Every company has its own type of situation with regards to that. You can so obviously, considering this video is aimed at the people who maybe want to get into this field or learn about this field, and just to better their chances. So long as you understand the idea of the fact that there is a file keeping system, there is a way of note taking and sort of the housekeeping part of it, whatever they present to you to do that job, it's all roughly the same. In terms of handling fraud for the bank, fraud happens through bank accounts. People will access their bank accounts through their mobile phones, through their computers. So a lot of the systems we use are designed at looking at, what computer is this person using? What phone are they using? If this person uses an iPhone normally, suddenly why have they logged in on a Samsung? So a lot of it is sort of a technological monitoring software. And if you Google online, there's various systems for that, and all of them are used intently. Yes. There's a lot of softwares that you find that all do the same stuff, basically. And that's what you're looking, you're monitoring people activity. You find what's out of the ordinary, and if it's out of the ordinary, you investigate. And that's basically how the search for fraud goes, I guess. You don't just pick a random account. So it's all there on the net if one wanted to look, I guess.
How long you been in that role now?
So I've been in this role with my current employer about a year, going up to a year and a half, not too long. But I have been in business a long time, so I've always been aware of compliance and sort of that aspect of things for quite some time now.
In respect to this specific role as a fraud investigator, can you share maybe some pros and cons of the role? Yeah,
of course. So every person is different. For me personally, the fraud is just something interesting to me. How people do it, how people get away with it, how it happens. So I guess if you're interested by fraud and how it happens and how it's dealt with, that it's a very interesting job for you, because obviously you're doing it. There are pros in terms of fraud management and prevention, I guess. It's a booming field, so if someone wants to get into a position that they have good work security, good prospects, it's an expanding field. You're always going to be moving up, whereas if you go into a saturated field, it's difficult to sort of make the most of that sometimes. So it's good from that perspective, and certainly, I'm staying in this position, for example, for a year now. Already I'm trying to sort of move up into different positions. Once you become more senior, your actions have much more meaningful results. So for example, you have a judgment on what's happening, and that judgment is used so that account can get closed down. They could be referred to law enforcement. You could have saved the public lots of money. You could have prevented a lot of crime, people being harmed, and then you realize actually your job's quite satisfying. In terms of cons, pros and cons. Cons, there's quite a few. Depends on where you work. So if you're customer facing, the clients can be difficult sometimes. Yeah, clients can be very difficult. The work can be monotonous sometimes. So you're going through accounts, and actually, you might go through 10 accounts a day, you might go through 30 accounts a day, and it's all numbers, it's all balancing, it's all making a judgment off very similar sort of stuff. Natural progression within fraud prevention isn't as easy as you think. So by natural progression, I mean going from staff, deputy manager, unit lead, that sort of stuff. Not so easy in maybe as some other fields. It gets saturated very quickly within fraud. So that doesn't happen. What you'd have to do is think about the different aspects of fraud, trying to get yourself certified and trying to branch out. And I think the last thing that would really resonate with a lot of people in this entry level sort of area is if you go for positions that are entry level, usually there's quite a bit of micromanagement in those businesses. So you've got to be aware that that's the field you're going into. It is very tough work, and there's very high staff turnover. There's a lot of people that just don't really cope with it. So it's not easy. It really isn't.
So next question I have for you is if you are able maybe to share with someone in the audience what's the range that they can expect when they move into this type of roles?
So if you look at the briefly to this, actually I had a look at some available jobs and what there was on LinkedIn. Usually it's advertised at between £22,000 and about £25,000, give or take, annually. Right. And you can go you can, I reckon, if you work hard and you really are intent on progressing, it's possible you'd be on around £30,000, £35,000 in 4 or 5 years, I reckon. So
okay. Lastly, just for people obviously that are interested to get into this role as a starting point, what do you think is going to be the next natural career progression that they can take from this role onwards?
So generally, my colleagues at this point in time, or my, I guess, maybe previous colleagues, I should say, their next position was customer due diligence. Usually that's a very booming field. Customer due diligence is very popular. And then into further sort of AML, KYC positions. Those places, they're more reporting focused, more communication skills, I guess, you need to show in an application, in an interview. Things like being able to discuss things with senior members of the team, maybe even stakeholders of the business that you're in. So these much more necessary skills later down the line. Less customer servicey, less handling of that sort of stuff. I know crypto in general is becoming quite popular. I don't want to go down this rabbit hole too much, but there's a link I found. It says government sets out plan. This is UK government, by the way. Government sets out plan to make UK global crypto asset technology hub, and I think one way or the other, I think it's going to be adopted. So I think if somebody wanted to get into this field and wanted to be ready for a field that is bound to come about, I think learning about crypto is a really good place, personally.
So it seems like there is the ability, like from the fraud space, to move into other area in compliance, as you were saying, like the customer due diligence space in KYC, or even moving into the transaction monitoring for either the traditional sort of transactions or even the crypto space. So it can open many doors if you want to go into the industry.
Correct. It's lovely. It's a nice place to be, and lots of doors that are available to you, and lots of options.
Okay, I think we are at the end of the interview, Zan, so I just want to say thank you for your time and for being on this channel.
Of course, no, thank you. It's a privilege for me. It's a lovely channel. I think your content's amazing. It's very factual, and from a person who's working here now, when I see what you are giving to the people, I feel like so long as they follow sort of the things that you're saying, it's everything that we actually do. So it's very, very precise.
Thank you for the feedback, and I hope we can chat again sometime soon with some more updates, and maybe when you move into your next role.
Of course, I hope so. It'll be a pleasure for me. I hope so.
I'm now at the end of this video. If my content were useful to you, please press the thumb up and leave your feedback in the comment section down below. Also, remember to check the description to find my Patreon page, where you can support the development of my FinCrime agent project. And lastly, thank you for watching. I hope you have enjoyed this video, and until next time, see you soon.